הקדוש, בוקר אור. ערב טוב, שבוע טוב. מסכת גיטין דף עין בית עמוד א', 72a1. The Gemara is talking about now the Shita of Rabbi Yosef. That according to Shitat Rabbi Yosef, mile lo mimseran l'shaliach. Words are not tangible, and therefore they cannot be given over to a shaliach. Only something tangible could be over to this is something tangible. I could give it to him, he passes it along, and they continue going until it disappears. Yeah, but words are not tangible. So you cannot give them over to a shaliach. Says the Gemara, V'hisal gadaita, now if you're going to tell me that Rabbi Yosef admits, beomer, that if somebody comes and he says, Imru leploni v'yichtov, ve'leploni v'leploni v'yachtemu, which means Imru. Imru means that go tell the sofer. Remember, we always said it's so important that you have to hear from the sofer the commands. Meaning, the sofer has to hear from the baal, from the husband, that he's a sofer. The edim have to hear that they're the edim. So, nafik mina churba, there's going to be a churba which is going to come about. Because sometimes he's going to tell to two different people, Lishnaim, Imru la sofer v'yichtov, tell the sofer to write it, and to so and so and so and so that they're going to sign. Umishum kesufa de sofer chayshi umichat meleh ubalo manhachi. You remember that we said, why is it? Yeah, we're going back always the same thing. Why is it that we said that it's going to be a problem? We said right now the husband comes and he says, Mr. Sofer, can you please write the get? Mr. Edim, can you please sign the get? Now, if we're going to come and we're going to say that everything will be kosher, what happens is the sofer, he's a big shot. He's doing all the work. He comes, writes everything. Yeah, so all of a sudden, he comes and he says, okay, but I'm going to sign. Who else is going to sign with me? 1 second, but the husband never told him to sign. The husband gave him one job. Yeah, what's the one job? To write. The signing, give it to other people. So therefore, he can't just come out. So now it's a problem. You understand? So now he comes and he says, right? And the husband never said that. So it's going to be Gama Churba coming out of that. But rather we want to actually come back and say that the Reisha Bemet is like Shita of Rabbi Meir, and the Seifa is going to be the Shita of Rabbi Yosef. Nekuda. Ravashi wants to explain the Mishnah differently. Ravashi comes and he says, Kula Rabbi Yosef. Really, Bemet, the entire Mishnah is Rabbi Yosef. Now, we cannot be medayek from the Reisha that only if he said Ketovu, which means write it, that the Shluchim are not allowed to do other things and say Tenu. But rather, Be'emet, even if he said Tenu, they're not allowed to do it. Lo mi baye kama. What does it mean? We didn't even need to say it. Lo mi baye hechad lo mar tenu. Not only in the case where they did not say Tenu. Remember, Ketovu just means to write it. Tenu means to give it over. Because he could just tell them, write it. But then after he says, yeah, but I never told you to give it. Write it. Yeah, write it. And then what? It's going to be in my hand. I want to see how's Frecha going to behave tonight. Yeah? Yeah, write it and sign it. But he didn't give it over yet. But even if they said Tenu to give it over, it's not going to be, they're not allowed to. Why? Even if they didn't say it in front of 3 people. Even if they told it in front of 3 people, they're not allowed to do it, to tell other people to do it. Means even if they said Imru, also it's not going to help. Meaning in all these 3 chidushim, even if he said kitvu benotnu, no. Even if he said tenu, and he said no. Even if he said kitvu tenu, but he didn't say it in 3 people. No, even if he did it in front of 3 people, and even if it was that he said imru, imru says tell other people to do it. It does not help. It does not help in any of these 3 cases. I mean, each one was a lo mi bay in this case, but even that case, lo mi bay in that case, don't even in that case. Not only in this case, but even in that case. All the cases don't work. The Tanakh of Ravashi we have in a bright and according to Ravashi, katav sofer lishma. Imagine right now the sofer writes lishma. The chatmu edim lishma. The edim sign lishma. Afal pi sheketavu v'chatmu, even though they wrote it and they signed it, untanu lo, and they gave it to him, untano la, and he gave it to her. Harea get batel. The get is still batel. Ad sheyishmeu kolo sheyomar lasofer ketov v'laedim hatomu. You see from here the importance, and by the way, even until today, this is such an important concept that it cannot happen that just, no. I can't just come and get off the street, right? No. You have to hear from the husband. The sofer has to be hearing from the husband, kitov. The witnesses have to hear from the husband, hatomu. Everything has to be done. Yishmeu. When he says yishmeu, what do you mean yishmeu? It comes to actually exclude the mandamar, that it's going to be permitted in the case of imru, but rather we have to hear it. Yishmeu. What is kolomi? I have to hear his voice. What do you mean his voice? Obviously, what am I hearing? It's not his voice. This comes to exclude Rav Kahana Marav, right? That Rav Kahana Marav comes and he says, right, that a cheresh שיכול לדבר מתוך הכתב, כותבים ונותנים גט לאשתו. Meaning there's a whole going to be machloket over here, if you remember, to do with a cheresh. So what happens right now, if you have, right, a cheresh, that he could speak out the words from something which is written. So it says over here, according to the Shita of Rav Kahana, Marav, you're allowed to write and give a get to his wife. So he comes and he says, when it says Yishmeu Kolo, it has to be his call, right? And that he's a bendan, only just some that he could be a tuki. You know what a tuki is? What do you say tuki? A parrot. You're going to just repeat what's written down. No. The guy has to have that. The guy has to have in his mind, right, something in his head. Okay? Fine. Mishnah. No Mishnah. So it's something new. Ayin bet Amud Aleph. Says the Mishnah. Ze gitech imati. Imagine right now, Shchiv Mera comes. So remember, Shchiv Mera is a person that's on his deathbed. He gives a get to his wife, and he says, this is your get if he dies. Meaning, when he dies, that's what's going to... Or Ze gitech mechol izera. This is going to be the get if, right, from this choli and onwards. That means if he dies from that choli, from that sickness, it's a get. Okay? So... Or zegitech la'achar mita, because basically he doesn't really want to divorce her. But if he dies, he wants to divorce her. So he comes and he says, zegitech, if he's going to die.
No, she can get remarried.
No, but we already mentioned many times.
He doesn't want to
he doesn't want her to be an almana. Because an almana is a black widow. It's a bad mazal. People would prefer to get married to somebody that's divorced than to somebody that's an almana.
Depends.
Why? It's a bad mazal. It's a mazal. They don't want to. It was a mazal. I'm going to give you an example. In Morocco, a lot of women, right? If the husband died, they would stay almanah for the rest of their lives.
I told you.
If they got divorced, the next day they would get married. No, they're not allowed to. They would have to wait. But you understand why? Because it all depends on it's the feeling. It was something there. Not only that, but haki, another case. You know what other case? What happens in a case where he has no children? They have no children. Yeah. So what happens? If he dies, she has to be boom. You know what it is that she has to now get married to the brother-in-law? He wants that she should get married to the brother. It's very, very. So what happens? He prefers that she's divorced and not an almanah. So he comes and he says, this is your get, but now there's one problem. The problem is in all these cases, they were all after death. One more time. The first one, zegitech mati. This is your get if he dies. Zegitech mechol izeh. This is your get if he dies from this sickness. Zegitech le'achal mita. No. He wrote it. But when is it chal? When is it coming into effect? When is the effective date? The effective date is le'achal mita. And therefore, lo amar klum. In all three cases, walo. Why? They all applied after death. They all. Doesn't matter the language that he used. Whether this is a get if he dies or this is a get. It doesn't matter the language. All three of them, the effective date is after death. So therefore, Lo Amar Klum, he didn't say anything. However, though, he says mehayom imati. This is your divorce today if he dies, or me'achshav from now if he dies. How does it get? It is a get. Why? Because basically what he's saying is the get is chal, the get is effective today, but on condition. What's the condition? If he dies. But when he dies, it's retroactively that she was divorced today. There's going to be a whole question, what happens if she does certain things in between that time? Because now what? You understand? Meaning that, you understand? Because at the end of the day, he said today. Yeah, but we deny it. So there's a condition. What happens if he says, mehayom ulachar mita, from today and after death? He doesn't say mehayom if he dies. He says mehayom and lachar mita. So what is that? Is it today or is it after death? Decide. He's limbo. Be clear. Yeah, Moroccans are clear. No. There you are. So he says, get, then I'll get. It's a get and not a get. The met, why? Because we have a doubt. We don't know what it is. The met, if he dies, she only could do chalitza, not yibum. Because remember, anytime that there's a safek, she can only do chalitza. She can never do yibum if it's a safek. Because if it's a safek and she does yibum instead of chalitza, it's what? It's eshet ach. She's pogea be'eshet ach, meaning she's never allowed to live with a brother-in-law forever. Right? Even if she gets divorced, she can never get married to the brother-in-law. Here, though, in Yibum, the mitzvah of Yibum overrides the Yisur of Eshetach. The problem is, here, since we're in a doubt, so she can't get married to the brother-in-law. So that's why whenever there's a doubt, choletzet, v'lo mityabemet. She does chalitza, not Yibum. The other case, zegitech me'ayom, imati mecholizeh. What happens if he says, this is a get, if he dies from this holy, but he said, today, if he dies from this holy, ve'amad ve'alach bashuk. The guy came back alive. Meaning, he was on his deathbed, and then all of a sudden, he recovered. It was a remission. He gets up, he goes to the shuk, but then what happens? Again, he gets sick. And then he dies. So now what happened? Because he said, this is a get today, if he dies, right, from this sickness, was it this sickness or not? Was it something new? Is it panim hadashot? Is it hadashim mikarov ba'u? What is it exactly? We don't know what it is. So he says, Omdinoto. We're going to evaluate him. If it's all from the original choli, harez a get, it's considered a get. And if not, eno get. So here we're going to leave it up to the doctors, because obviously the doctors are going to have to know. For example, many times it happens also with the machala, barminan, the sickness. Right? Many times it happens, a person goes in remission, and then it comes back. And there's a whole question, does that actually mean, right, that's the first one or not? So there's a whole question, why? Because many times it's like Jose Veneor, or is it something new? Many times it's not something new. Many times it's still like, that it's the same thing, or that it's something that... Same thing with the... So says the Gemara, Alma, you see from here, Imati kelachar mita dame. If a person comes and he uses the terminology, if he dies, that means that the get means that it's after death. It's considered. But then one second. Then he said, if it was from today and he dies, or or from now and he dies, but then maybe 1 second, maybe mati is not in lachar mita. One more time, what do we say afterwards? We said afterwards that what happens if a person said, hayom lachar mita? Hayom means today and after death. We said it was a doubt because what's the ikar? Today or after death? So we were in a safek. So now it says the Gemara in the Reisha, when it said in the first part of the former part of the Mishnah, when we said imati, we said that was lachar mita. It was after death. Because if a person comes and he says zegitech imati, it means lachar mita. Klum. Okay. Says the Gemara, 1 second. The Mishnah immediately afterwards said that what happens? He says me'ayom imati. If you just told me that the words imamati means la'achar mita, so that means it should mean hayom ula'achar mita. So why did you say in that case hayom imati is kosher? You should have been like the other case. Hayom ula'achar mita, it's a safek, it's a doubt. So what's going on? Right? He says v'hada tani me'ayom imati me'achshav imati alma imati lav kelachar mita dami. So what's going on? You have to make it. You have to decide what's going on. Answers the Gemara, Amar Abaye. Says Abaye, imati shtel leshonot nashma. When I use the terminology imati, it means both. Mashma me'achshav, sometimes it's mashma not like now, ke me'achshav, umashma ke la'achar mita, it's mashma like after death. Amala me'ayom, if he came and he said from today, so then the pshat of imati is keman da'amar le'me'achshav, so it means like now. However, lo amala me'ayom, but if he didn't say today, so then it's considered lachar mita. You understand? Meaning the terminology of imati could mean both, but depends on the context. So if you said mehayom from now, so the imati goes that it's also like from now. But if you didn't say from now, so imati means later on lachar mita. Nekuda. 2 dots. Says a Mishnah. Zegitech imati lo makum. So a person comes and he says, this is the get if he dies. He didn't say anything. Amar Ravuna says vecholetzet, and therefore she has to do chalitza. Says the Gemara, 1 second. Why chalitza? If he didn't say anything, she could do yibum. The halo amar klum tani. You just told me she didn't say anything. So if he didn't say anything, so then she should do yibum. Answers the Gemara, lo amar klum. He didn't say anything. That she's still asur to the world. But she's also asur to the yavam. Meaning it wasn't 100% that he did not do anything. He did do something. What did he do something? Now she's asura leyavam. But it's something. So says the Gemara, 1 second. In the Seifa you said, if you only said in the Seifa that she has to do chalitza and she can only do yibum, mashman dereisha, you could do yibum. So answers the Gemara, matnitin k'rabbanan. Our Mishnah is like the rabbis. What does that mean? The rabbis, our Mishnah holds that if you say imati, haget batel, and only if you said me'ayom imati, so then it's a machloke between, right, the Chachamim and Rabbi Yosef, that they come and they say that to do with a matana, you have to write me'ayom ulacham itan. If you didn't write me'ayom, it's nothing. Rav Huna holds, the Amar Rabbi Yosef, the Amar, zmano shel shtar mochiach lav. Meaning, I take the date. What does that mean? What's written in the date? When you come and you take a document, there's always a date. Why do you always write a date? He says the date is going to come and say that this is when you want the effective date. Meaning, because if not, why do you return a date? No, you want to know when it's effective. So he says the same thing by us. Since he wrote on the get, the time, right, the tarikh tivato when you wrote it, so minastam, it was also probably given in the same day. And therefore, even if the husband said imati and he didn't say mayom, the kavanah is that it should be today. Why? He gave it today. He didn't just come and leave it and say he gave it today. So it's mashma, it was from today, and then if he dies from this sickness. So says the Gemara, Rabbi Yosef, it's going to be Rabbi Yosef. So chalitza namiro to buy. So 1 second. So then even chalitza she shouldn't need. Because if it's considered now me'ayom, so it's a get kasher. She doesn't even need to do chalitza. She needs to do nothing. So answers the Gemara, v'chitei man, you're going to tell me misafka le Rav Huna that you've got a safek according to Rav Huna. If the halacha is like Rabbi Yosef, or the halacha is not like Rabbi Yosef, is there a safek for Rav Huna? There's no safek. But Rabbi Baravua chalash. Rabbi Baravua was sick. Ul legabe. He came up to visit him, Rav Huna Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman came to visit. Right? So they came to visit Rabbi Baravua. Amar le Rav Huna le Rav Nachman. Says Rav Huna to Nachman, ba minem Rabbi Baravua halacha ke Rabbi Yosef or en halacha? Ask him, what's halacha? Like Rabbi Yosef or not? Amar le, says Rav Nachman, tamad Rabbi Yosef lo yadana. Even in the reason of Rabbi Yosef, I don't know, which means I don't know why it has to be written me'ayom. But the halacha ibayle, so now we're going to ask him what's halacha. Amar le, he says, atba mina halacha, right? You ask him what's halacha. V'tamed Rabbi Yosef, and I'm going to tell you the reason. Meaning, he comes and he tells him, well, you want me to start asking the question. First, I have to understand Hechal what we're talking. But then after they're going to, he said, no. You just ask what's halacha. After knowing what's halacha, yeah, I'm going to come and I'm going to explain to you the reason. So he asked Rav Nachman to Rav Huna, Amar lehachi amar Rav halacha ke Yosef. So he comes and he tells him, right? Rabbi Baravua said to Rav Nachman, this is what Rav said, halacha ke Yosef. The Vatar did a fact. So after he came out, Amar le, he tells him, I know Tamad Rabbi Yosef the kasavar zmano shel shtar mochiach alav. Meaning he went and he told him, you know what the reasoning of Rabbi Yosef is? The reasoning of Yosef is because the time, the date on the document is mochiach when the document takes place. That's the reasoning of Rabbi Yosef. So therefore, from here though, we brought down that it comes out that Rav Huna doesn't have any more doubt if the halacha is like Rabbi Yosef or not. He had the doubt. They asked Rabbi Bar Avua, and Rabbi Bar Avua gave the psak. What was the psak like Rabbi Yosef? He already knew the reasoning of Rabbi Yosef. He just wanted to know if that's halacha, and he brought down the name of Rabbi, the halacha is like Rabbi Yosef. So he says, no, that's not the safek of Rav Huna. Ela mesaf kaleh, but the doubt was, I'm bet amubet, 72b. The doubt is, Yamar Rabbi Yosef bel peh, ilo amar. Does Rabbi Yosef come and he say that zmano shel shtar mochiach lav also when the t'nai was given bal peh and it was not written or not? Meaning like this, imagine right now it's written in the document. If he dies, right, and this is the get if he dies. So then it makes sense. What happens if the condition was said bal peh? He gave the get. When you open up the get, nothing's written about conditions. Everything was perfect. A regular get. You would have never known he was sick. You would have nothing. You look at the get, everything normal. But he said about peh. He came and he said, by orally, he went and he said, by the way, this is on condition. What's a condition if he dies? Does Rabbi Yosef also hold in that case the same halacha? Or is it only if it's going to be written in the actual document? That was the doubt. Okay? So says the Gemara, are you going to tell me that that's a doubt? But Tram, we learned in the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, later on, Ayin Vav Amud Bet, right? Hopefully by tomorrow, next day, yeah? Hareze Gitech. Somebody comes and he says, this is your get. Im lo bati mikam ad 12 chodesh. Imagine a person comes and he says to his wife, you know what, this is your get if I didn't come from now to 12 months. Many times he used to do that. He used to go away for many, many months for work. Now, sometimes something would happen. Force majeure, this, that, and then they would disappear. I'll go look for him. He went to China. It's not like nowadays that you call it, even nowadays, you know, it's very difficult. It's not always as easy to contact people. Yeah. They could disappear. Yeah. So what happens? All of a sudden, right? He comes and he writes again. He says, you know what? If he doesn't come back within 12 months, he's MIA. You know what MIA is? Miami, but it's missing in action. Yeah, so it's missing in action.
The date applies a year after the date.
Exactly. So therefore, what happens? So he comes and he says, "Mikam ad 12 chodesh." Umet b'toch 12 chodesh. What happens if he dies within 12 months? And no get. It's not going to be a get. Why? Because the get was only chal after the 12 months. And when it already was chal, he was already dead. So since he was already dead, it's not good. The Tani La, so we learned, Rabotenu itiru ala naseh, the rabbis permitted her to get married without chalitza, because according to them, it was chal. And therefore, she never needed yibum. Ve'amnina lo, he said, wow, how do you do this such a thing? Man Rabotenu, who's the rabbis? Amar Rav Yehuda ben Shmuel, says Rav Yehuda ben Shmuel, Beidina de Shalom mishcha, it's the din that they permitted the oil of the kochavim. Meaning like this, do you know, we're not allowed to have wine of the goyim. We're not allowed to have wine of the goyim. No? Yeah? No, 1 second. Right? The wine of the yeah, exactly, because of Yain Nesach. We're not allowed to have the bread of the goyim. Yeah? There's a whole question of papaltar, that it's not goyim. 1 minute. Yeah? So, what about the oil? So do you know that the same time that they prohibited the wine, they also prohibited the oil? The oil, the same thing. They didn't want us to be with goyim. So therefore, and they know that people, they were very stringent upon what they eat. So if you're going to tell the guy, listen, don't get married to the goya, arayot, immorality is very strong. There's a big yetzirah. So it could be that they'll fall. But if you come and you tell them, listen, you know what? You can't eat from that. So it's a border. Why? Sorry. You can't? I can't. You can't? I can't. So why? Because if the goya can't cook from, he can't eat from the same thing. He can't drink from the same wine. He can't. So there's a border. There's a distance. That distance protects that now what? They can't. So they can't. She can't make him bread. She can't cook for him. Bishul goy. She can't make afiyat goy. That's a afiyat pat goy. She can't. No wine. So what are you going to do? Imagine nothing. The guy, he's going to be hungry all his life. He can't do anything. So therefore, what happens? It's a distance. He distanced themselves. They prohibited also oil. Also, but the bedina de Shalom mishcha, they came and they permitted the oil. Here it says, the Gemara brings it down, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi and his bedin, they permitted the oil, right, with eating, right, because they went, there was certain reasons brought down over there, they permitted it. Okay, fine. They retracted and they permitted it. But Rabbi Yehuda Nasi wasn't just some, like a thing. Mamash, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, his bedin, they permitted it. So what happened was, is Sabdilan, some people say, Rabbi Yosef, like Rabbi Yosef, which means this. You see from here that according to Rabbi Yosef, since he says the zman shel shtar is mochiach alav, the time of the get is mochiach. When he wrote the get, when did he write the get? Today. Today he wrote it. He made the condition about 12 months. When did he die? In between. Doesn't matter when. If you say zman shel shtar mochiach alav, when did he get divorced? Today. So if he got divorced today, so therefore, even though he died in the middle, it doesn't matter. Zman shel shtar mochiach alav, which means today you got divorced. And therefore, what happens? No chalitza, no nothing. You don't need anything. So says the Gemara, so according to this, if right now we're going to come and we're going to say, that's not a doubt. Because according to Rabbi Yosef, even if it's going to be for later on, doesn't matter. Right? And therefore that's it. He died within the 12 months. I don't care. I look at the date. I want to see the date. That's all that I want to see. Okay? But rather, what was the safek? If the halacha is like Rabbi Yosef, be'al peh or en halacha. Meaning this, you're right. According to Rabbi Yosef, he holds as manosh shtar mochiach alav, even if it's not written in the get. Even if the condition is not written in the get. So what's the doubt? And the halacha is like Rabbi Yosef. Question is the halacha like Rabbi Yosef in this case or not? Meaning, in a normal case, halacha is like Rabbi Yosef. And if it's written in the document, the halacha is like Rabbi Yosef. What happens if it's bal peh? Is the halacha still like Rabbi Yosef or not like Rabbi Yosef? So he comes and he says, is that a doubt? Right? Ve'shani met, harei get. Keshe'amut u'le'achar mita, and ze get. Which means you see from here that somebody that comes and he says that this is a get if he dies or that he's going to die, right? It's going to be a good get. But when he says when he dies or after that, it's not a good get. So, what's the case exactly? If it's going to be that he said mehayom from today, right? So therefore, in the Rabbanan, and it's the Rabbanan that are arguing on Rabbi Yosef, so you have to say that then. But Tanam, we already learned mehayom imati is a get. If he says mehayom from today, it is a good get. And if he didn't say mehayom, so then it's according to Rabbi Yosef then. So what's going on then? So Shema Mina, we learn from here, halacha is like Rabbi Yosef, even if it was going to be al t'nai. Even if it's going to be al t'nai, meaning even if it was going to be on condition, the halacha, and even if it's going to be a bal peh, even if it was said orally, the halacha is still like Rabbi Yosef. So the Rava pshita, so the answer is like, no. The Rava was simple, that's halacha, but Rav Huna was a doubt. That's the first answer. Second answer, if you want, you can answer. Really, he told her me'ayom, and it's going according to Rabbanan. But here we needed to say shani met is ki mati dami. He wanted to teach you a chidush that if a person comes and he says this is harei gitech shani met, that he's going to die, that is ki mati. It's like the same terminology of imati, but keshamut means lachar mita. Okay, that's what we're trying to learn. Some people, they come and they teach the words of Rav Huna in the Seifa. It says, remember, a person comes and he says, this is your get after death. Zeklum. It's nothing. Amar Rav Huna says, according to Rabbi Yosef, she does chalitza. Why? Because the Zman is going to be mochiach la. Says Gemara, Pshita, obviously, if in the Seifa, according to the rabbis, you do chalitza, so then in the Reisha, also Rabbi Yosef, you're going to do chalitza, right? Because basically, according to Rabbi Yosef, Haisha choletzet and enamit yabemet. So what's the chidush then? What's he coming to teach us? She says like this. I would have thought to say Rabbi Yosef behak Rabbi Sfirle. Maybe Rabbi Yosef holds like Rabbi. The Amar that he says later on Ayin Daled Mubet. So again, when we learn Ayin Daled Mubet, you're going to see this. Gita me'al yahave. That if a person comes and he says Zegitech me'ayom ulachamita, this you get from today and after death. What do we learn about that case? Today and after death. What do we see in the Mishnah? Safek. But there's a shita of Rabbi that he's going to say there, Gita me'al yahave. It's a good get. It's not a safek. It's 100% a good get. We're going to see later on. She doesn't even have to do chalitza. Kamashvalan comes to teach you the Lord Rabbi Savala ke Rabbi Yosef, the Lord Rabbi Yosef so the meaning each one doesn't hold of each other. Meaning Rabbi does not hold of Rabbi Yosef, and Rabbi Yosef does not hold of Rabbi. So Rabbi Yosef, right? Rabbi doesn't hold of Rabbi Yosef. That's right, and that's why you have to say mefurash hayom. Because remember, according to Rabbi Yosef, the date is already hayom. I don't have to say hayom. Hayom means today. I don't have to say today. Look at the date. That's Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef says, look at the date. I don't have to say today. If I see the date, that's today. Yeah, that's Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi doesn't hold of that. But Rabbi Yosef does not hold of Rabbi. What did Rabbi hold? Right? Rabbi hold the me'ayom ulachar mita is not a lashon of lashon safek. He says, lidvarav lashon zu lashon safek. And therefore you do chalitza, not ibum. According to Rabbi Yosef, you don't have to, but according to Rabbi, it is. Rabbi lo savar like Rabbi Yosef diktani kazeget the mute of the Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi does not hold of like Rabbi Yosef because we learned in a Braita on Rabbi kazeget on this is a get. This comes to exclude Rabbi Yosef. That means when he says kazeh, this is a get. Mashma the other one is not a get. But Rabbi Yosef doesn't hold of Rabbi diktani kazeget the mute of the Rabbi. That means each one said this is a get. Why did each one say this is a get and not the other one? Because this is a get, the other one's not a get. So the Gemara is going to explain now. Rabbi Meir, really be'emet, Rabbi Meir, what was Rabbi exactly? Rabbi Maihi, right? What is Rabbi exactly? The Tanya exactly we learned in a Braita. Imagine a person comes and he says, this is a get from today in Lachamita. What do we learn in the Mishnah? Get, no get. We said we weren't sure. Why? He said me'ayom, which is today. La'achar mita is after death. I don't know. So it's get v'no get. Divrei chachamim. That's our Mishnah. Rabbi says, kazeh get. This is a get. Rabbi Yosef Mahi. What is the case of Rabbi Yosef? It's not now again. We didn't even bring down the reasons. The reason is going to be on Ayin Daled Mubet. But now it's not. This is a Mishnah now in Ayin Vav Mubet. So again, when we learn Ayin Vav, you're going to tell me we just learned it. It's true. We just learned it now. The time we learned in the Mishnah, Kitvu tnu get li ishtim lo bati mikam vat 12 chodesh. Imagine right now a person comes and he says, write the get and give it to the wife if he doesn't come from now until 12 months. Katvu, but they write it within the 12 months, but they only gave it afterwards. Meaning they wrote it within the 12 months, but they only handed it over to her after the 12 months. Eno get, it's not a get. Why? Because the husband made the condition, right, only to write it after the 12 months. Meaning he said, Kitvu tnu get li ishti, not hayom, and then on condition, imlo bati mikam, on condition that if he doesn't come after it. He says, if after 12 months he doesn't come, now write the get and give it. They wrote it beforehand. They wrote it before the 12 months.
But he said, write it after 12 months, and if he died?
No. So then if he died before the writing it, for sure not. But let's say he's still alive. Okay. But the fact that they didn't fulfill his words, because he said to write it and give it after 12 months, they wrote it within the 12 months, and then they gave it after the 12 months. It's klum. And no get. Rabbi Yosef says, kazeh get. It is a get. Why? Because he didn't make a t'nai, right, on the k'tiva, only on the netina. He didn't make a condition on the writing of it. He only made the condition, when do you give it over? When do you write it? Whenever you guys want. You guys write it today if you want. I don't care about the writing. I care about when you're giving it to him. I just wanted that it should be given to her after the 12 months. Don't give it to her beforehand. Because maybe he's going to decide within 12 months, yes, no, that. Afterwards, he said, you know what? I like my life in the Bahamas, China. Colombia. Yeah, where's that? Yeah. So fine. Okay. 2 dots. A person comes and he says, this is the get from today if he's going to die from this sickness. Then he gets up and he walks in the shuk. Amar Ravuna says, Gito kematanato. The get of a shchimina is like a matana of a shchimina. Imagine a person is on a sick bed and he says, you know what, Ariel, you get $1 million. Right? You're counting the blessings, right? I don't want to say you're going to start saying Tehillim, but yeah. Huh? Okay. So what happens? He's not here. Yeah. So what happened? So what happened is you're even, no. No, come, what's going on? What happened? He got up. He said, wow, this guy has 9 lives. Yeah, he got up. He goes in the shuk, but then he drops it. But you're trying to run. No, man. Get $1 million. So no. If he gets up from his bed, everything goes back. Goes back to him. Right? So what happens? Just like by the get, even though he didn't explicitly say, once he said, write it, even though he didn't say, tenu, you give it. So to matanato, once he says, give it, even though he didn't do any kinyan. Meaning, when a person's on the sick bed and he says, give a get to the wife, he only said, write a get for the wife. It means write and give it. He didn't say give it. No, he's sick. He meant write and give it. So to the matana, when he gives a matana to somebody, if I come in and say, I'm going to give you this as a matana, I'm telling you, I'm giving you this as matana. If you don't make a kinyan, it's wallow. I can retract in 1 second. Hey, I'm giving it to... No, take it back. Not only take it back, you need a kinyan. If there's no kinyan, you didn't do anything. Here, since it's a shchiv mera, you don't need a kinyan. Even though shelo kanu miyineh, you still acquire it. So says the Gemara Tzna, we learned in the Mishnah, this is you get today. If he's going to die from this holy, and then he got up and he started walking around the shuk, and then he got sick and he died. They're going to evaluate him. If he became sick because of the first one, it is a get, it's a get. And if not, then he'll get, it's not a get. If you're going to tell me that if he gets up, now it's going to be choser, it retracts. Why do I have to start evaluating? He got up. Meaning, what do we say in the Mishnah? We said in the Mishnah, let's evaluate him. Did he die because of the original sickness or not? I don't care. The second he got up out of his bed, Kaddish. That's it. Everything changed. Everything became annulled. That's what we just said. So answers the Gemara, Amar Mor b'Rav Yosef Mishmei Derava, Shenitak mecholi lecholi. He went from one choli to another choli, but without becoming cured. So in such a case, Rav Huna is modeh that the get is not batel because he was never cured, meaning he didn't die from the same choli, but it was another choli. And by the way, that many times happens because many times when a person's sick, their immune system is very low, and therefore they could go from one thing to another thing, and one complication to another complication, and the second complication is what killed them, not the first one. The problem is that once he's already on the, you understand, like, once he's there, it's so the same thing. He never actually became cured. Okay? Then the Gemara says, he got up. He says, no. He got up from one choli and he went immediately to another choli. So says the Gemara, but you told me that he was walking in the shuk. If he's walking in the shuk, he's not sick. How can you tell me that he went from one sickness to another sickness? He's walking around the shuk. Says the Gemara, he was walking in his cane. Meaning he wasn't 100% there. And by the way, you should know the same halacha applies in halacha l'maseh. When a person says hagomel, they don't say hagomel after sickness until they're cured completely. They don't say that right after. No. Let him feel good. When he feels good, now, not when he's half dead, he comes and he says hagomel. No. Let him feel revived when he feels, and now he does it. So he was walking with a cane. So therefore, it's going to be, right? It was going to be a completely different halacha.